super
so no, I was
excited.
gonna start. RHCP is the reason I and Jatin are friends, and that's the reason we started jamming together a long time ago. So, like the fact that you're wearing the T-shirt, sort of right away makes us like so happy and like okay, you guys just like
Yeah,
us.
yeah. It just changes
See,
everything right now.
that's my firm beliefs. Like people who grew up in the 90s, right? Especially listening to early 90s music, like are the best people on the planet. Because,
Yeah, and
Dude, yeah. And
yeah,
that's
man.
very difficult to debate because I think just the spectrum of music that was there and just the kind of stuff that was floating around, it's insane. And I don't think anything can be replicated like that.
I think in the early 90s, I was probably like 6 years old, but I obviously caught on to it much later. But from what I gather, that there was like a couple of weeks that it just created history.
Yeah,
There was the Nirvana Nevermind album that came out, RHCP, Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out around the same space, and a whole bunch of others. So
yeah,
there was something about that time period that
yeah,
just, and the
yeah.
whole world vibed with it. It wasn't just,
It's
just a
it's
few people, it was
ridiculous.
mainstream.
Yeah,
I
So
think these guys were trying to deliberately shift away from the whole glam rock scene from the 80s. And they were discarding a lot of what came in the 80s, which was like super, super, like flashy and stuff. And they were going back to the roots stuff, which was like Zeppelin and Purple and Sabbath, but sort of giving it their own interpretation, right? Like Nirvana and Peppers and all these guys. And it creates this really nice atmosphere. But it's not quite classic rock, but it's also like not the glam rock thing, and it just like becomes a thing of its own. So that's how you get like Pearl Jam and your Soundgarden of the world, and all of these
so
guys just doing great music in a span of very small time.
yeah. And see, that's the thing. All of these guys, they all know each other, right? So even though
yeah,
there are these different band identities, they've all played with each other at some
yeah,
point in time.
yeah.
So it's all I think what's more important is like people being on the same wavelength, and that'll then
Correct.
show in the music that you play. So which is why Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, like RHCP, even RATM, I would argue to some
Yeah,
extent, it's all
yeah.
the same family, I feel.
Very similar. It's so
I
strange because it's almost like if you this doesn't make any sense, but it's almost like if people in Andheri, right, like people who are close in like the circuit of music making in the indie scene in Mumbai, forget Andheri, and then people and that just exploding to a sense that everyone knows everyone, but everyone's also making such distinct music from all across the spectrum. I think
Yeah.
that would be like the dream if that happened. Like we're getting close to it happening in India in so many of the cities with so much
Uh-huh.
great music happening, and then people collaborating with other people. Coming to your collaboration with Fuzz Culture, which was super exciting to hear. Also, you collaborating
So
with
glad.
Keshav Dhar and upcoming tracks with Blackstad Blues. It just makes it so exciting because you're obviously coming out of a certain kind of music you're making, and people listening also are very curious to be like, okay, what kind of how is this going to sound? So I think one of our first question to you through this jumble would be like, how uh, what has been your thought process in collaborating with these different artists, and is it something that you're pushing consciously from your side, or it's just something exciting that it's just happening out of magic, like from the air?
So back when I was growing up, so I grew up on the late 90s, early 2000 scene of indie scene of Bombay.
Yeah,
So back then it was all, Great Indian Rock Tapes and Rock Street Journal magazine and
correct.
Geekpad Forum, and that was all the rage. And
Yeah,
bands wise, yeah, for me the biggest influences were Zero, Pentagram, Kinky Ski Monkey, all of these like awesome sauce
yeah,
bands that we would just go and just mosh at
yeah,
IROC Rang Bhavan. So that's the space where all of this sort of germinated. Um, and that's never left me. So in terms of when we started writing our own music, we sort of still carried the same influences.
mm.
And way back when we were just doing our own sort of little high school college band kind of a thing, it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
We weren't very serious about music. It's just a
yeah,
couple of friends jamming together, and it was fun. It was fun, but we never released any music. which sucked in hindsight, right? Because
Yeah.
once your jobs start and things like that, it just stuff just sits for
Right.
years. So when I left Bombay in 2009 and I came to the States, it started eating into me that, oh shit, we had this entire book body of work, and nobody other than maybe like 5 friends
Yeah.
and grudgingly our parents have heard this have heard this crap. So it's got to be like made properly.
Yeah.
So in 2016 onwards is sort of when I started releasing music. But see, the thing is, like, I don't come from a music education background, so
Correct.
my own vocabulary in this space is limited.
Right.
So what was critical for me was to work with folks who were sort of better than me, so
Yeah.
so I started working. My wife went to Columbia University, so that they have an excellent sort of Indian community that's very vibrant, and they are heavy into sort of Indian classical as an example, because if you're
Okay.
playing New York, you're playing to the world,
Right.
right? So a lot of like PhD students, they would like do that during the day, and then at night they're playing Greenwich Village, which is the same place where Bob Dylan and Hendrix used to play. They're playing the same
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah.
So that's what I started experiencing, and that sort of naturally led to collaborations with friends, I would say first,
Right.
who were also sort of musicians, and then one
Yeah.
thing led to the other, which snowballs into trifecta. It's just been sort of, I've been at it since 2016, trying to just up the production value of the music, work with increasingly sort of better musicians.
Yeah.
And, it got to a point where I wanted to reflect back that, hey, I grew up listening to Zero. Why don't
Yeah.
I give Warren a shout out? Let's see.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a long shot, but shot him a note and he replied back. So it's
That's
cool.
insane. Yeah. That's almost
Yeah.
like if you don't you call out to the universe and it's probably nothing happening, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, in my mind, the worst that would happen is you listen to the track and say, "Boss, this is not thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah. True. So in this scenario, there is a worst that can happen. Like,
Yeah, that would just be soul crushing, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
But no, man. See, the thing is, Warren, musically, his set of influences are like so diverse, right?
Yeah.
And back when he was playing Zero versus what he's playing now as Blackstrat Blues, there's huge spectrum sort of difference.
Correct.
But what I've always felt is that the core doesn't change.
Yeah.
So when I talk to Warren about my song Liberate, he sort of gets it, that this is the space where it's coming from, but it obviously has to be kept recent with modern times. Right?
Correct.
Same thing with Siddharth Basrood. Like, I was a fan since he was with Kinky Ski Monkey, and they were covering Even Flow Pearl Jam at
Right.
Rang Bhavan at IROC. So he was also like gets it, right?
Yeah.
This is the space, but I mean, how much do we want to keep dwelling on the past? Like,
Right.
1990 abhi 30 saal ho gaya. So we have to,
Right. Yeah.
move on a bit.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's how the collaborations are sort of organically grown. I would say, like, friends first, like fans, and then I would say jumping into the whole professional scene headlong.
That's amazing.
From what you were saying, right? Like, one of the things that obviously comes to the mind is the fact that since you're playing with like a variety of artists, and although they come from the same time zone, or approximately a similar time zone, but like the genres that they're playing are very different, right? So of the videos that you released, one of them is like a very happy sort of a video, right? My Room.
Yeah.
And the other one is obviously darker, almost bordering heavy metal.
Yeah.
And like, I just want to ask you, like, was that intentional, that, you know what, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show them my overall range as a musician? Or it's like, you know what, let the chips fall where they may. I am making a music album rather than like a rock album or an electro pop album with First Culture, because First Culture's music, I've been following First Culture since he was playing in Circus, right?
Yeah,
He's one of the best guitar players. Yeah, right. And from there he became like this electronic producer, and he's like a really cool electronic producer, and his vibe is very, very recognizable. So when I hear like 3 songs from you, I'm like, this dude is not unlike a Blood Sugar Sex Magic, for example. You're not really going for hard punk rock music. You're letting the chips fall as they may. So is that intentional for you?
No, not really. Akash. See, the thing is, with me, collaborations are true collaborations, right? So when I'm working with somebody new, I want their sort of influences to drive the music. So it's, of course, I've written a demo, so I've written the lyrics, I've written the chords, and I played an acoustic version. But it's very interesting to me as to how other musicians perceive the song and the direction that they want to take it in. So when it comes to, especially with trifecta collaborations, my direction to these guys was, you have creative control, do what you want, come back
Okay.
with crazy ideas. And I think Fuzz Culture, Arsh is just a crazy guy in general.
He's a
So
crazy guy. Yeah.
he I think had the craziest ideas of them all. But yeah, I didn't want to like constrain them that this is the sort of genre that's hot right now, so let's target that. It just, the EP is versatile by nature because the musicians on it are versatile, you know. So you're right, everybody comes from, I think, similar sort of influences, but what they're doing right now is a reflection of the person that they are right now, and that's
Yeah.
different, right? Keshav Dar, as an example, he's doing a ton of film music. So when I sent him the demo for Nukkad Closed, he read the words, and he sort of understood the overall premise, which is very sad. It's very dark, right?
Yeah.
It's a tribute to the late Garima Kothari. And the vibe that he wanted to create for it was larger than life, cinematic, because that's sort of who Garima was. And she was aggressive, so the song had to reflect that, and it was more of a celebration of her life, which is why it comes out with such sort of energy in the metal zone. With the Fast Culture, I don't know if I move over, can
Yeah.
you see the painting back there? So
Yes.
that's my
Yes.
baby girl, Myra.
Yeah.
um,
Myra.
so that's a totally different zone. And you
Exactly.
know, when I spoke to Arsh about it, and Siddharth Basru, you know, they were just so excited that, oh, this is for a kid, and you know, we gotta make it happy. And
Yeah.
same story, man. I had an acoustic demo, but free reign to Arsh. In fact, I had to stop myself from pushing him into the Pearl Jam zone. Some of the feedback that I gave on the initial mixes was like, hey, maybe we could use some distortion guitars. And he's like, no,
Oh,
don't need it. Don't need it. We played that for years. Aage badhte hai.
So this is really fascinating because, from whatever demos that I work on, or things I share with Akash while we're throwing around demos, or even thinking of music, I'm so stubborn on like what I have in my mind. It's extremely difficult sometimes for me to give free reins as such to someone, or say, listen, I'm gonna step back. You can do whatever you want. I'm kind of
Precisely.
fascinated that you've been in that position where you absolutely are giving away that entire baby to someone else and trust them completely, which is
And
awesome.
literally in this case.
Yeah, that's literally your baby. It's like
um,
it's like the legacy.
yeah, I think it just comes from trust.
Yeah,
Had this been some producer who's like really hot in the indie scene right now, and he has like 50 million streams on Apple Music, but I don't know him,
right.
you know,
I,
that
I I can name a few. I can name a few whom I would not trust, although they have like a bunch of streams. So yeah, having worked very closely with some of them, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
yeah.
I see what you
so
mean.
so folks that you know really well, and you've known them for years, right? And they're
Right.
like genuine people. This is what I was talking with Arsh the other day, that my biggest takeaway from this whole trifecta EP is just getting to know these folks like socially, and just
Correct.
knowing how cool they are as people,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know. And being able to switch from just being a fanboy to actually having conversations like over WhatsApp. Like the
Right.
sound setup that I'm using today, it's under the guidance of Warren. So he's been
Right.
telling me, hey man, do this, don't do this, and this is
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't work. People are so chill, but
Yeah.
so yeah, so
That's
So I think a
trust
lot of
trust.
your music also has you. I mean, it starts from you, your stories, real life things, right? Has that always been a process, or was there a point where you realized that my music has to be from my life? Or how do you go about it? Like, where do you pick stuff from your life? How do you do that?
See, the thing is, because I don't do music commercially, it frees me from a lot of other constraints. So I
Lovely.
can afford to talk about the things that affect me personally. So that's sort of the intent behind these songs. So they've always been with each song. I've felt that I've discovered myself as a person more, who I am. Like if you back in the day, so one of the songs that one of the first songs that we'd ever written as like teenagers was a song called Shades. And this was off a EP called Reimagine that we finally put out in 2019 after 18 years when the song was written. So if I when I started to think about as an 18-year-old when I was writing Shades, did I really understand what the song was really about? No. The song was
Right.
actually about anxiety disorder in children. And the thing with music is that it helps you express yourself in ways that words sometimes can't. So as a teenager, I had no understanding of what anxiety disorder
Correct.
even it wasn't until when I was 34 years old that I understood, oh shit, this is what it is. And mental health is a serious thing. Go see a therapist, take your meds and you'll be fine. You'll be sorted. There's nothing. But when I was writing the song back then, I had no idea. It just came.
Yeah.
And when I was revisiting the song now and you start to question yourself, why did I write this lyric? Some of it, granted, didn't make sense, so some of the words had to be tweaked, but the core emotion of it like didn't change. So to answer
Yeah.
your question, each of these songs has that sort of very deeply personal story, and that's the space where it comes from. Creating songs that don't have that, to me, would be cheating the audience, right? And folks can pretty smart, man. You can even see through what was genuine versus what was just created because the music director gave you a brief and you said,
Yeah.
fuck it,
Yeah.
I need to pay my bills, I need to make some music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you just described like pretty much all Radio Mirchi and Radio City Top 10.
hey man, because see, the thing is, every music has like its own space in the world.
Yeah.
Power to
I'm
them.
sure it does, but hey, like some of it is objectively shit. I'm like, I'm going to disagree with things there. Like some of it is objectively shit. You go around, you see the kind of regurgitation that happens these days, and so when you sort of meet and talk to an artist who is like honest to his influences and who's honest to the process of songwriting, it's obviously a fresh change. Like your story, obviously about Shades, right, reminds me of what Radiohead was trying to do for like 30 years. They were playing True Love Waits, which is one of their iconic songs in different variations of the song, but they never released it on an album. And eventually, when they came out with the song in 2017 in the A Moon Shaped Pool, it was like a completely different song from what they had been playing in the 90s and 2000s. It was just like a piano based song as compared to a hard acoustic song. So that's very commendable because you're sort of letting it marinate sonically and obviously thematically in a place where you don't betray yourself as an artist. And also there's something else which I want to touch upon, which you mentioned, that you don't make music commercially. Why would that be a thing? Because before this thing started, I and Jatin were talking about we wanting to ask you, what do you think of like how different streaming platforms compensate the artists? So is that something you would like to touch upon?
Yeah. So the thing is, I don't do music full time, which is why I sort of do this as a passion project, right? And I'm able to talk about the things that I care about. My day job is with Amazon, so I'm sort of I'm I'm
Are you
conflicted.
based out of Bangalore?
No, New York. Let me spin the camera around and show you, man.
Okay.
So I'm conflicted, man. I have friends at Spotify. I have friends at Apple Music, and of course in Amazon Music too. Look, music is a hard space. The industry is, and I come from a finance background, so that's what I do at Amazon. The economics are terrible, and nobody knows this better than you guys. You study the industry. You know the there's a huge mismatch, right, between the demand and supply. The economics just don't make sense. If it weren't for streaming platforms, music, I don't know what the space would be today. But I don't. I actually don't have enough info about this, but I don't know how many people actually rely on just their streaming revenue to make a livable income. At least all the folks that I know in the indie scene,
Yeah,
other than maybe I don't know, other like Divine, Ritviz, and maybe Pratik Kuhad, nobody would be able to make a livable income just from streaming platforms. So
correct.
banking on that, I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure. Right?
Yeah,
So
Hmm.
you have to augment your sources of revenue, be it whatever live gigs or Zoom gigs with COVID, or selling merch, and everybody is sort of struggling, right, to find that right
yeah,
mix. But
yeah,
to make this more argument more personal, I very early on I sort of made the distinction that if I'm pursuing music, it's for pursuing music for the sake of music, like creating art. So by very definition, the commerce aspect is going to suffer.
yeah,
Versus if you're pursuing music for commerce, that's a very different argument. All right. And the thing is, look, I mean, if people want to pay rent, and you have to sort of conform to
yeah,
what a film is asking of you, or what an ad is asking of you. Because again, as a finance person, if I put that hat on, if I'm paying money and I'm contributing to a film that has a 50 million budget, I want to see a return on that investment. So it would be kind of risky, right? That, oh, let the music producer just do his thing, let them create a Myru. If it clicks, great. If not, I'm fucked.
yeah.
So it won't work, right? So that's what I'm saying. The economics is sort of very different. So the intent behind the music sort of becomes primary, is
True,
what I
Hmm.
feel.
true. That was interesting. I wanted to quickly touch upon Nukkad Close, the song,
Yeah.
the music video, which I absolutely enjoyed. I mean, uh, the mix of both the music and the music video, I think, had uh, a much stronger effect on me as a listener, because I was completely engrossed in the video, and then the
Yeah.
music also was complementing it beautifully. So I just wanted to know what, did you work on the music video yourself? Was there someone else who worked on it? Because it was visually very beautiful.
So with videos also, I take the same approach as with songs when it comes to collaborations.
Okay,
The director or the animator has creative control. So
right.
I of course, at the onset, I would conceptualize it that this is what the video is about, and more importantly, why I'm creating it. So
Hmm.
with Mukad Close, it's a tribute to someone that I'd met in real life,
Hmm.
and I wanted to be respectful to the friends and family involved, and not sort of directly reference the incident. She lost her life in a horrific case of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And what I had seen was all of the coverage around the incident was just focused on her death, which was just wrong. As a living person, having interacted with her, she was awesome, and I felt that ought to be celebrated. So that's where the space of Nukkad Close came from. And when I spoke to the animator Dhruv Sharma, who happens to be Arsh Sharma's brother,
Oh.
um, yeah, he sort of understood that, okay, this is it's a very delicate subject. It has to be treated with a lot of weight.
Hmm.
And given that we again pretty early on made the decision that we didn't want to directly reference her, or the incident itself in the video, but use metaphors to sort of communicate the idea. And we brainstormed a lot. We That's actually what we end up spending most amount of time on for any of these videos, that the
Hmm.
vibe has to land. Whether
Right.
it works or not, whether the YouTube views are like 5 or 5 million is sort of secondary.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of brainstorming with Dhruv, and then he really drove it. So full power to him, man. Happy
That's
that
wonderful. That's,
yeah,
yeah. I
happy
mean,
with the way it turned out.
yeah. It turned out, I think, like the best it could. So congrats to Dhruv and to you for the release.
Brilliant.
And a little bit about your last track, which is with Mighty Blackstrat Blues. With
Yeah,
I'm not sure when the release date is. I don't know if there is a release date, but can you give us a
March
little
26.
teaser? Can you give us a little
Yeah.
teaser about what we should expect? Because we're completely confused, right? Like, we went from Nukkad Close, we went to Myru, and now we're like keenly awaiting as to what this next journey is going to be like.
How
Dude,
many
this
how many solos does it have?
two. Are you crazy going to Warren and saying you can't do solos? Like, no,
Yeah, exactly.
way. No,
Like, let's cap it at 3. Let's cap it at 3.
he would have done 6, and the song would have been
Yeah.
10 minutes long.
He
But again,
is insane.
he has creative control. Again, this one is also in a darker space, and the music will reflect it. So it's a song about substance abuse,
Okay.
and sort of the struggle to break free, which is why the song is called Liberate. This song, I would say, is the closest to my original set of influences. So you might hear a lot of Alice in Chainsy sort of
Okay.
heavy grunge.
Yeah.
So Warren is like in his true element, and he got Jairo Kavi on the drums, so he's slamming it.
Oh,
Like he had to
Amazing.
that's nice.
Amazing. Yeah. Like
So-
that combination is almost like fatality right there, right?
So I greatly admire Blackstrat Blues. I love everything they do. I think dig more of their heavier material. And this just, I think, pushes that boundary
Yeah.
even further. So sonically, yeah, it's you're in for a treat. The video is we shot it in Bombay just a couple of weeks back. And it's trippy. It's trippy. So
I'm
it's
assuming you got to work with Jairo Kavi
yeah.
like, in person. Like, he's one of the greatest drummers in this country, but he's also one of the funniest guys in the country. Like, I don't know if you know, but like he's like one of those stand-up
Vashant from
comedians.
Nashik is like my favorite comedy sketch.
Exactly.
It's, I keep telling him, see, everything you do, I know of you since you played drums for Pin Drop Violence. That's great, but Vashant from Nashik is your best work. That's your legacy.
Wait,
Mode Festival, Mode. I remember that. I know that video by heart. That was like the funniest thing ever.
So wait, he's not a real musician?
Like, no, he's a real musician, but he's also like one of the funniest guys ever.
No, I know it confused me for the longest time, because I saw this video from Warren's page, right? And he was like, this person Vasant, and he's talking about a guitar. And for like the longest time, I couldn't get the dark humor part of it. I thought this is just really one of Warren's friend, and he's trying to encourage him to play guitar or whatever,
Dude, there is an insane section where he's supposed to read music and he's reading it all wrong, and he's like, Samaila, do you want me to play music or read music? Like, what do you
Kekra chord. Kekra chord is something that I take to my grave.
Yeah, and it was months later when I went for a live gig, and I was like, wait, the drummer, I've seen that guy somewhere, right? And then then I was educated that, okay, no, this was like a sketch. It was brilliant. It's like the best thing that ever happened. Like, it was too cool. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the top drummers the country has seen. He's been collaborating with so many newer artists now also, which is great.
Was he, if I'm not mistaken, was he also the drummer for Pangea? He was, right?
I think.
Yeah. Lovely.
Super
group playing with
one.
some really cool people.
And they all super chill, yeah. So that's the most important thing. There's no about airs that, I play for Bollywood. Like, fuck that shit. They would rip on Bollywood as much as me. So
So Manas,
take money from them.
Any time we would be able to see you live in Mumbai, sometime in India, you plan to come back?
It's been on the to-do list like forever. I haven't been able to travel to Bombay for the last like 5 years now.
Right.
Either my visa is expiring or the wife's visa is expiring. It's just been horrible. So yeah, I do want to travel back. I think once we've had our vaccinations and it's a bit safer.
How did you shoot the video in Mumbai? Oh, you just came in.
Yeah, no. So 4x4 has produced it. So they lined up an awesome crew. And again, it worked very similarly. I was able to provide a high level brief and what the song is about and why, and they ran with it. And they've done some seriously experimental, crazy shit. Because it's about substance abuse, so the bounds are limitless. So it's about a really bad acid trip, and it creates a lot of space for hallucinations. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's great. But also hats off to 4x4, because it was Nidhi from 4x4 that actually wrote in to us, describing your album, your music, and then we heard it, and then we were like, okay, this is awesome. We have to, like, hoping to, like, bring you on the podcast, because we just started the podcast like a couple of months ago, and fortunately they were able to make it happen, and we're absolutely stoked that you joined us and were able to talk to us.
4x4 is just the again best people on the planet. I know of Himanshu and Nikhil way back when they used to manage some of my favorite bands of the time. I think
Right,
Medusa, who became Sky Rabbit, who became Yochin,
right.
all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And forever fan of Control Alt Delete. So that's
yeah.
power to them, man. Being able to put out good music, like genuinely good music,
Correct.
in this environment, it's hard. And they've been doing it for decades. So Rishu Singh, 4x4, huge man.
Yeah, no, I think that was one of the primary reasons why we even started Musicmandir as a platform, because it was always a little irritating that people weren't aware of, like, great music that was originating like just next door. Right. And then there were so many instances where I would make people, like, listen to some artists, and they'd be like, holy shit, we didn't even know that there was so and so, making music like this. And so the whole purpose was to just get people to explore Indian music a little bit more, and then have a website where maybe you can, figure out more artists. And we're just so fortunate that now people share their music with us, and we get to listen to more people. And then through the podcast, we can share their journeys, because the musician is everything. Like, I feel I keep joking with people, like, there is no Spotify if there's no music, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a great service, but then it's the musicians. And yeah, man, I mean, we're just super excited that you joined
Speaking
us.
speaking speaking of, where can I find your music? So I looked you up on SoundCloud, and I think all you have there is like covers, which are great.
Yeah.
But where can I find
So
you?
I have some of my music on Bandcamp. So I can probably drop you a link, like, later, offline.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, like we are like what you would call dilettantes when it comes to, because we have the exact problem that you just described, like songs lying around for 18, 19 years and just sort of
Yeah.
never seeing the light of the day because life gets in way. And that, I think that's like the moment you said that, we were like, okay, like I can empathize with that, because that's exactly what Jatin and I also fight about on that. So that's there.
Yeah.
Also,
It's
one question that I want to have, it is like a very commercial sort of a question, very very MTV question, but I still want to ask it, which is
please.
what's on your playlist these days?
Oh, you'll hate me for saying this, but it's a lot of Pearl Jam still.
Yeah.
What are you listening to? Which album?
Has to be 10, yeah.
It has to be 10, right? Like some of the later
Yeah.
stuff is not really up to the mark. I mean, it's never bad, but it's not really up to the mark. It doesn't have that thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
have the edge.
And I've got them so many times now, and their live gigs are so phenomenal. Like Pearl
Right.
Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Soundgarden actually did a gig with Nine Inch Nails a few years ago, and I was fortunate to catch Chris Cornell. The way they just conduct these gigs, and the kind of folks that
That was
show
in
up.
Seattle, right?
No. So New York being such like a global hub, the bands, whenever they do these tours these days, especially the older bands, they would club with other folks and
Okay.
do these joint tours. So I even managed to catch Bob Dylan,
Wow.
who's he was still touring with Mark Knopfler, and Knopfler still got it. He's still awesome, but
Yeah.
Dylan, he was a bit
Not
out of it.
not so much.
Nah, so
Yeah,
it
but at the
just
same
shattered.
time, he's 80, right? If I'm not wrong, he's
Yeah,
nearing
he's
80.
really old, dude.
Yeah,
He's
he's
really old.
insane. The fact that he's still on
Oh,
stage.
burping this thing is. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was sort of feeling, I think, bad for him. People were shouting, "Go, Bobby," and all that. But he was just out of it. It was rather sad actually to watch that.
Mm.
That's what I feel about. I'm sorry to say, Anthony Kiedis. Some days, like when he's performing live, and like it's always like either Frusciante or Josh Klinghoffer who have to sort of come in and fill it for him.
Don't say that,
Because
man. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Chili
'Cause-
Peppers.
Yeah, because it's on my bucket list to like catch them live like anywhere in Europe that they're coming, especially because Frusciante now like rejoined. So I'm like, you know what? Like when this COVID thing is done, like wherever they are, I'm just going because I just have to like just watch it with my own eyes and then just be done with it like mentally and universally. I can be at peace.
The Chili Peppers, they put on quite an act. I caught them in 2017 at Madison Square Garden. So they put on a full audio-visual experience.
Yeah.
So there's a whole sort of lights thing that's happening and a lot of boo-ha-ha. So it's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
But personally, the best concert that I've seen is Prophets of Rage. I've caught them twice.
Oh, wow.
Oof. That energy is second to none, boss.
I think Tom Morello is ridiculously underrated as a musician because the guys he's played with and even his solo stuff, right, which just didn't really take off, but he had these few acoustic revolutionary albums that he'd put out, were actually pretty damn good, right? But it was just like political in nature, so I think it got pushed around. But I think Red Hot Chili Peppers and I think Tool is like a band that I really want to watch live.
Tool was, I think, sleeping since the 1990s, and they suddenly discovered the internet, and now they've started putting music out online.
They dropped a new album on Joe Rogan Experience. I remember that. I just released my catalog on Spotify.
Yeah, it's like 18 years later or some stuff, man. That's insane.
Just woke up from coma. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
The world is
He's been a farmer, right? All this while. He's been a farmer all these years. He's like a wine farmer.
He has a winery. Yeah, he has a winery, and all of their songs are like these mammoth 17-minute songs. And so there's these funny articles about how kids now would be reacting to these songs, right? Like it would drive them insane, like knowing that the songs are so long. It's insane. So
that's the entire attention span, I think, of a whole generation. 17 minutes.
Easily.
Give me the hook. Give me the hook in 17 seconds. Otherwise, I'm bouncing.
Yeah.
What happened?
Imagine, in that sense, imagine the kids listening to something like a Bitches Brew by Miles Davis, where like the first song is 21, 22 minutes long, like barrel stamps. And like there is no chorus and there is nothing, right? It's just like a bunch of atonal sounds. And they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Oof, the state of affairs. Hey, but there's positives too. It's not all bad.
There's always positives like the latest song that's coming out.
Kendrick Lamar.
We
have conflicting feelings about that.
We have Kendrick Lamar and we also have Manas Jha releasing his latest track with Black Strat Blues. I think we'll poll it up and let the people decide.
And Manas, do also let us know how people can support you in whatever way they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something,
folks can find me social media. As much as I despise it, I have to be on it. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'd recommend folks not spending too much time on these platforms. It's detrimental to your health. But if you're on there, do look me up. Manas Jha Music. Apple Music is an absolute best. Shout out to Bob Bob and James for supporting me and the indie music scene overall.
Awesome.
So power to them.
Yeah, we link everything in the descriptions, and people can follow Manas. People can enjoy his music, and hopefully we have you back again with like some new EP. New music
soon, or just chatting for hours,
or just come and hang out with us
or just a Red Hot Chili Peppers t-shirt that works perfectly.
I'll send you one from here. Yeah, I'll send you one.
Awesome. So Manas, we're running out of time. In a few minutes this call's gonna be done, but we're absolutely happy that you could join us.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Cheers,
and all the best. All the best. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.
See you everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Manas.
Cheers, guys.